panelists. We are trying to reduce the amount of background information, so background noise coming in. So please make sure you mute your microphone and just type any questions or concerns you have so that we pick it up as the moderators. My name is Christine Sayo from Nairobi, Kenya. Together with my colleague Ingrid Nielsen from Estonia, we shall be moderators for today's webinar. Feel welcome. We may be physically distant from each other, but that doesn't mean we cannot connect and engage, especially on such an important day for the environment. Let us have fun together as we learn from each other. Karibuni, welcome to today's webinar. Thank you. So Stefan, I don't know if you have managed to join us. If you are on, please say something.
Absolutely, I'm here.
Perfect, thank you. Kindly, the floor is yours. You can start for the webinar for us and give a presentation about Let's Do It Africa and how we link to Let's Do It World. Thank you, welcome.
Perfect, thank you very much, Christine. Hello, everybody. My name is Stefan Senghor, the board director for Africa for Let's Do It. So basically, first I would like to thank Christine, Ingrid, Olumide, Kate for such an initiative. This is a great topic because first, waste management is a crucial service, invaluable public health service, especially during this current coronavirus pandemic. So those of us who have the chance to have access to formal or informal waste management services right now are benefiting tremendously from avoiding health risk of waste piling up. This situation of the coronavirus has been impacting the waste management sector that was already in crisis, because we have to bear in mind that first and foremost, Africa is not necessarily the biggest generator of waste with 174 million tons of waste per year. But however, 90% of the waste that is produced in Africa is mismanaged, which is posing a problem and a threat for health and environment. Also, I would like to say that the perception of waste in Africa is also a problem and worrisome, in the sense that most of African countries and most of African, from the consumer to the policymakers, are still seeing waste as the last of the last sector to be taken care of. Therefore, doesn't open the floor for waste to be considered as a resource. So who are we as Let's Do It World? Let's Do It World is an organization that aims to tackle the waste problem in the world by providing services, guidance, but also mobilizing citizens to make sure that we tackle together this huge problem that the humanity is facing. In Africa, we have been present for the last year in 47 countries. It's increasing. 15 countries are members of Let's Do It World. So the difference is other countries that are participating to the World Cleanup Day, which is the spotlight event that Let's Do It World is organizing on a yearly basis. Africa is a challenging continent in the sense that we have to bear in mind that most of the time our countries do not have the resources needed to process the growing amount of solid waste that we are seeing. We are 1.2 billion residents of Africa and eager consumer in our growing economies, which is meaning that we are expecting waste to double or triple by 2050. So all this amid the crisis of COVID gives us an opportunity to rethink and to see how we can optimize the services when it comes to waste management. How can we change our perception in order to be more efficient and provide solutions that can really be a breakthrough in our continent. I would like to finish by giving a small example. South Africa, which is one of the leading economies of Africa, generates 50 million tons of general waste per year. Only 10.8% of this urban household waste is being separated at the source, which means that we are still lacking a lot of resources and lots of opportunities when it comes to waste management in order to change the paradigm from waste to resource. And I feel that this is a great opportunity for us to be able to speak about waste management in Africa amid the crisis of COVID. And I welcome all of you to give the maximum of your thoughts, share your ideas, so we can all together face this crisis and the crisis that were here before. Because I have to remind that Africa didn't start with COVID. We have several crises that are underlining and waiting for us. So we need to tackle them all. And I believe that Let's Do It has a fair share in this battle. Thank you very much. And I wish you all a great webinar.
Thank you so much, Stefan, for setting such an amazing pace for us for this webinar. Stefan Senghor is the director for Let's Do It Africa, and he has mentioned that Let's Do It Africa is currently operating in 47 countries. If you know about World Cleanup Day, then you know about Let's Do It Africa. If you've participated in World Cleanup Day in your country, then you are participating in an event organized by Let's Do It Africa. And this webinar is, again, one of the activities being led by Let's Do It Africa in our bid to ensure that we have a clean environment during COVID-19, after, and in the years to come. Thank you so much, Stefan. Our next presenter is Prince Kwame Agbata from Ghana. He will be sharing his screen and presenting on the situation in Ghana. Prince Kwame Agbata is the founder and CEO of Koliba Ghana, a startup with operations in Ivory Coast and Ghana that is addressing plastic waste pollution through incentive-based recovery and recycling. He's a 2018 class of President Obama Foundation in South Africa, 2017 winner of Eco Hero Award by Samsung Engineering, and Tunza Eco Generation for his role in addressing environmental problems. Prince holds a postgraduate certification in global environmental studies and a first degree in IT from Ghana Technology University. He is also an early stage environmental researcher, co-published research paper on the role of waste pickers in addressing environmental challenges. Prince plays the violin on weekends and loves to swim. Thank you so much for that powerful bio. Welcome to the webinar, Prince.
Thank you so much, Christine. I just want to know if everybody here speaks clearly.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so I am going to share my screen. If that's okay.
We can see it.
All right, can everybody see my screen now?
Yes.
So first of all, my name is Prince, and I just have 10 minutes. I'm going to be a bit quicker. So I am the co-founder of Koliba Recycling, and like the profile said, we are based in Ghana and in Cote d'Ivoire. So just an overview of the problem in Ghana. We are generally generating over 1.7 million tons of waste, plastic waste alone in Ghana, and about 2 to 3% of this is actually recycled. It is also estimated that Ghana can make over $340 million a year if we can just recycle the plastic waste that is currently unrecycled. So the current economy situation is that households, enterprise, everyone picks up the waste, it goes into a general bin, and then it all ends up in the landfill. Then you have scavengers or waste pickers who sort them out and then bring them to recyclers for money. So that has been the economic overview. So this has also led to environmental pollution, declining health, and limited comfort of living. So what we do at Coliba is that we have a mobile platform that connects waste pickers, recyclers, informal sectors, as well as households. And this platform puts recycling services at users' fingertips, and they are able to recycle, know the closest recycling and deposit centers across the country. We have over 80 centers across the country where people can bring their plastics, and then they can cash out for health insurance, cash food items, whatever form of incentives, reward for their recycling. So that is basically what we do. When the materials come to our facility, we crush them, and then we actually sell to customers, basically not just in Pakistan and India. We sell these materials to people that do bottle to bottle. Currently, we're selling to key plants in the UK, in Portugal, and in Malaga, Spain. So these companies are bottle to bottle companies that convert the materials that we give them back into bottles. So in overview, we have a mobile platform that connects waste pickers and households, put recycling services in people's fingertips. They know buyback centers, deposit centers, they can drive and drop it off. We have smart bins that people can also deposit and get points. And these materials come to our recycling facility, we recycle them, and then we sell back locally and also globally for people that need them for new products. So I just want to talk about the plastic sector challenges that we are facing. And the reason why I want to focus on the plastic sector is because we are massively focused on plastic recycling, and I would really want to narrow it down to the issue of plastic. And I think one of the key challenges we are facing in the plastic recycling sector in Ghana is that there is no formalized or united plastic aggregators and recyclers association. And what I mean by that is that we do have solid waste collectors association, but there is no formalized united plastic recyclers association. A part of it is that over 92% of the recyclers and aggregators, when I say aggregators, these are people that collect and recover materials in huge quantities. A huge number of them are mostly informal workers, and they are not formalized. And so because of that, they are not recognized. And because they're not recognized, their role are not really accepted. So I think that is one of the key challenges. Another challenge we are facing in the recycling sector is the zoning problem. So you have these tricycle, these are three-wheel tricycles whereby informal workers who also want to eat into the recycling or into the waste management sector. The zoning problem says that only recognized waste companies can enter into a particular zone and recover plastics. So we have, say, 5 major waste companies in Ghana, and a waste company has to pay for a zone. And when they pay for a zone, the zone is given to a good company, and no other company is supposed to pick from this zone. So this zone, another word you call this zone in some countries are counties or districts. So most of the waste companies that have access to these zones, they don't have recycling services. Everything ends up in a landfill. And I think Calgary, Alberta is one example of the best cities in North America that allows not just zoning for waste management companies, but also zoning for recycling companies, whereby waste management companies are given a given zone and district, and another recycling company is given the same zone and districts to also pick up recyclable materials. But it's not so in Ghana. A waste company is given a zone, they don't have recycling services. When a recycling company goes into that zone, you have challenges like legal lawsuits and a whole confrontation. So this kind of conflict has been a really big challenge in the plastic recycling sector, as well as even the waste management sector. The second thing is that when you boil down, even now in the COVID period, we are having challenge of no local use of the PET bottles. When I say the PET bottles, I mean the PET bottles, which is the Coca-Cola bottles and all that. We have in Accra, we have about 62% of our beaches solely polluted with plastic waste, and most of these plastic waste are PET bottles. The reason is because there is no strong local market for the PET bottles. Nobody buys it mostly in West Africa. Nobody really recycles it, excuse me to use the word, recycles it locally in West Africa. Most of it is really recycled partly into flakes and mostly exported. Those that are doing a good job is Nigeria, whereby they are flaking it and or baling it and selling to people that are actually, again, using it for new product, but mostly most of it are exported. So there is no local market for PET bottles in Ghana and mostly across West African countries. Another challenge we are facing is that there are also a challenge. So when you see the picture on my left-hand side, these are clear bottles. So there's a huge challenge of what type of bottles buyers are buying. So one of the key challenges we are having in the COVID period is that due to the sharp fall in oil prices, manufacturers and processors are buying virgin plastics over recycled plastics. And buyers are not just buying virgin plastics. Those that are buying recycled plastics have decided to just buy the clear bottles and the blue bottles. So you realize that colors like brown colors and green colors and deep blue colors, and there are no markets for it. So if you come to our factories across Accra and other parts of the region, we are actually having over 250 metric tons of blue and browns that nobody wants to buy because there's no market for it. And the reason why they are not buying it is because for the clear bottles, the manufacturer has the potential to change the color into whatever they want. So if I have a clear bottle and I'm recycling it back into another bottle, it's clear. So I have the opportunity to change the color into a different color. If I'm converting bottles to fiber, so another technology is PET bottles to fiber. So polyester, which is a polyester clothing, is made from polyethylene, which is PET. Some people can say, okay, I want a green fiber, I want a yellow fiber, so they can add a chemical called master batch that can allow them to change the color. But with the brown and colored bottles, they don't buy because the colors are really deep and it's difficult for them to really make changes to deal with the colors themselves. That has been one of the key challenges. Another high, so I said previously that there is a huge demand for virgin plastic over rPET. When I say rPET, I mean recycled plastic and other forms of recycled plastic due to the impact of COVID-19. So the photo you see, the extreme left side, which looks like rice balls, like rice sizes, those are virgin plastics. And virgin plastics are totally made from oil, straight from oil, natural oil, which is not good for the environment. So when these plastics are when these virgin plastics are brought, they are made into what we call preforms. So when you look at the middle photo, those are preforms. And these preforms are sold to companies like Coca-Cola, whatever bottling companies, and they just put it in the blowing machine. So the blowing machine just uses hot air and blows it into the bottles they want. So when you look at the last bottle on your right-hand side, you see that the bottle was blown from the preform into that shape. So they have realized that the virgin materials are so cheaper because oil prices are way cheaper. I really don't know why oil prices are so cheap. I think it's partly because of the impact of COVID, also partly because people are not buying fuel, and partly because everybody, mostly due to the lockdown, people are indoors, people are not driving. Shipping and export has really fallen so low. So oil prices are also falling. So it's more convenient for manufacturers to rely on virgin plastic than recycled materials because recycled materials are currently much more expensive. So this is one of the huge impact that is having in Ghana because for the recyclers, we are really seeing this economic challenge. Another issue that when I boil it down to waste pickers, I think one of the challenges we are facing is that waste pickers are highly prone to COVID-19. The reason is because waste picking is an essential service and it requires no capital. When I say waste picking requires no startup capital, I mean here in Ghana, people just get up and go to the landfill, go to the streets, go to the slums and start picking up, segregating and sell to people who pay them for it. So you basically don't need a starting capital. And the average age of the waste picker that works for us is about 57 years old. The maximum age we've seen so far is 83. And the youngest we've seen is around even 13 years and 12 years old. So it's an interesting sector. Waste picking sector is highly informal and gender-based. And when I say gender-based, I don't know if it's the same case for Nigeria and other countries around West Africa, but in Ghana, we have a situation whereby women are mostly in the plastic sector because plastic is lighter and less heavier. And you find more men leaning towards e-waste and hard plastics because they are heavier and much more, they deserve much more effort. So you realize that the waste sector is even gender-based and gender capped across. So you have women in the plastic sector, even lighter plastics, you find more women. And in the heavier plastics like PP and HDP, you find a bit of men, but mostly in the e-waste, you find more men in that sector. So because of these dynamics, we're seeing that the impacts of COVID-19, it's not just affecting waste pickers, but massively affecting women waste pickers. So the picture on my left-hand side is a picture of a waste picker in a typical landfill here in Ghana. And what we are doing in Koliba is to see how we can formalize the role of waste pickers. And part of it is giving them safety wears, recognizing their roles, providing them PPEs, providing them with gloves and whatever they need to make their work much more healthy. So we do understand that, just to sum up, we do understand that there are some health impacts of the COVID-19. And there are studies that suggest that it stays in a room temperature for 3 days and on plastic materials for 6 to 9 hours. So bearing in mind that there are key studies that we've understood that plastic materials, COVID can stay on plastic for 6 to 9 hours, even in a hot temperature, means that waste pickers are highly exposed. So what we are doing differently in Koliba is that we have since May this year, we've hired a full-time company doctor that is overseeing the work of about 210 waste pickers across our value chain. And we have call times, mostly 3 hours every day, where any worker, any waste picker can call in a doctor or see a doctor and get medications. And these medications are really split. So Koliba pays 50%, the waste picker pays 50% for this medication. What we're also doing differently is that we are rolling a full health insurance for so we have 210 workers, factory workers, waste pickers picking for us in-house. We ensure that all of them are on a national health insurance cover, which is fully paid for. We have also put all of our 210 workers on a life insurance cover, and this life insurance cover includes a special COVID-19 cover, assuming we lose a waste picker. Bear in mind that we have waste pickers who are 83 years old, 70 years old, and these are old people. We can't ask them to stop working. We can't ask them to stay indoors. And during the lockdown, they were still an essential service. They were still going out there because they need to survive, they need to feed, and we can't tell them to stop. So part of what we thought we could do is to provide them a health insurance cover, a life insurance cover that has close to $7,000 to $10,000 health coverage for them in terms of death. So there's a death cover, there's a life cover, there's a hospitalization cover as well. We've invested $12,000 through partnership with corporates to secure PPEs for workers as well. What we're also doing is provide essential food items to waste pickers. So what we're doing is provide a bag of rice. We do that monthly. So every month we provide a bag of rice and basic food items for waste pickers, especially during the lockdown period. So in summary, what I would say is that in order for the way forward in terms of recycling and ensuring that we stay safe in this COVID period is to formalize the role of waste pickers, because these are people that are, again, when I say formalize, formalization means that they are not recognized. I give an example. In the district or local government, waste picking is not recognized as a job. It's not formalized. And the reason is because waste pickers are not at one particular place. They are always moving around, cherry picking from the street, cherry picking from the landfill, from the drainage system. So they are not really recognized by the community, and they're not really recognized by the authority. I think that has to change. And part of that is to see how we can embrace them through an association. And what we are doing is to create a waste pickers association that can allow them to have a voice, and it can allow them to also lobby things in their favor, and also drive policy in terms of the plastic recycling inclusion. We're also creating an association. Remember earlier I talked that we didn't have an association, so we are creating an association of recyclers, and now we're also driving further innovation in the recycling sector to ensure that PET doesn't get to be exported as we're currently doing, but see how we can locally use them here in Ghana, but more importantly, have a sector-driven investment. I think that is all. Thank you so much for your time. And if there's questions, I'll be happy to have them and share more. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Prince. That's really a very thorough presentation on the situation in Ghana. And we appreciate having you as one of our panelists for today. It's really been a moment to learn about your experience. To our participants and those who are just joining us, this is the Let's Do It Africa webinar on waste management during COVID-19. So far we have had our director for Let's Do It Africa, Mr. Stefan Senghor, introduce Let's Do It Africa. The presenter who has just finished his presentation is Prince Kwame Agbata from Ghana. Kindly remember to mute your microphones as you join so that we avoid the background disruptions. We are moving on to our second panelist for the day, who is Anna, a dear friend. Anna is a Brazilian and has a master in business with focus on business strategy for sustainability and marketing by FGVSP and an extension in business sustainability with Cambridge University. She has been permanently living in Tanzania since July 2010. She is the executive director for Nipe Fagio, the pioneering environmental and waste management organization in Tanzania, working with government, private sector, and civil society on the pursuit of solutions for plastic pollution. Nipe Fagio is currently implementing the first community-based zero waste program in East Africa. Anna has over 15 years experience in community engagement and has lived for 7 years in rural Tanzania, catalyzing income security for local communities through social entrepreneurship programs. She is a member of Gaia and Break Free from Plastic and the leader of Let's Do It Tanzania, which is responsible for World Cleanup Day activities in Tanzania. Welcome, Anna. The floor is yours. Karibu Jirani. Thank you.
Thank you. Asante Jirani. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for being here. Let me share my screen with you. 1 second. There we go. Okay, so I'd like to talk a little bit about today about zero waste models as a solution to waste mismanagement. I think here in Tanzania, in Dar es Salaam, according to the census from 2012, we generate about 5,600 tons of waste every day. And most of the low-income communities do not have collection for that waste, which is obviously a problem. And so Nipe Fagio, we are basically implementing a zero waste model here in Dar es Salaam to be able to solve that problem. So the situation in Dar es Salaam, as you can see, we do have waste dumped everywhere. It could be, Dar es Salaam could be a very beautiful city. It is a very beautiful city, but unfortunately, you just find waste wherever you go, which is obviously a problem. The picture on the left is a river, so that gives you an idea of the problem. So what is the change that we are pursuing? Basically, we are looking for a Tanzania of clean rivers, waterways, and oceans as a result of resilient, aware, and engaged communities. So why does that matter? That matters because when you think about waste management here, we are thinking not just about the environmental aspects of waste management, we are especially thinking about the social aspects. And we believe that in a country like Tanzania and most of the African countries, not to mention everyone in the world, if you want to actually have a solution for sustainable waste management and for proper handling of the environment, you need to go to do that through people. You can't avoid that. So our model is based on 3 assumptions. Assumption number 1 is that when people are given a good choice, they take it. We truly believe in that. I still believe in people. So I believe that if people are actually given a good choice that solves the problem that they have, they will take that choice. Assumption number 2 is that waste can be reduced by 80% through community engagement and government oversight. Examples from other countries in the world, in Asia, in South America, show that you can actually reduce the amount of waste that you take to either the landfill or the dump sites. We don't actually have a landfill in Dar es Salaam, we only have a dump site. But the amount of waste that you take there can be reduced by 80% if you do a proper zero waste model. And then assumption number 3 is that Tanzanian producers will engage with single-use reduction if pushed by a policy framework. So the 20% of the waste that you cannot manage locally, that you cannot manage through sorting waste to separating waste, then those 20% rely, we need the Tanzanian producers or the global producers of basically industry that are producing packaging and producing waste, although they don't call it waste at the time they are producing, but waste is waste since it's produced, not just when we dump it. And so those 20% can only be reduced with a good policy framework. For that, we need to engage the civil society through awareness raising and movement building. We need to engage the government through a policy framework and a system oversight. And then the private sector, again, a life cycle approach for production. That means that you don't think about waste at the point that waste is dumped. You think about waste at the point that a product is produced. So this is like the theory of change for Nipefagio, and it's pretty much based on our zero waste program. And so basically what it says is that a decentralized waste management system that has waste pickers being the main managers of the waste management in low-income communities. When you think about a community, think about a neighborhood that will have its own system. You manage its own waste, and you have waste pickers engaged, collecting that waste. That waste is segregated at source, is then stored at a materials recovery facility, a small one only for that community. And then everything that can be used from that can either be decomposed, so we can make compost from that, or it can be recycled, is taken out, and that is done. And only the waste that cannot be handled in any way locally is then compacted and sent to the dump site. The dump site in Tanzania is called Pugu. That's the one official dump site that we have in Dar es Salaam. That Pugu dump site is about 30 kilometers away from the city. It's complicated to get there. It's expensive to get there. So it's very much important that we reduce the amount of waste that we send there. As it is expensive and difficult to get waste to Pugu, what also happens a lot in Tanzania and in Dar es Salaam specifically is that waste gets dumped in rivers or in forests. And so that's exactly what we're trying to prevent with the zero waste model. We are giving the community the power to manage their own waste and then solve that problem. So why does a community-based zero waste model would fit Africa in general? Because one, it aligns people and planet. So basically, as I was saying before, when you think about an African country, you're thinking about people that need employment, you're thinking about opportunities for income generation, and waste does bring that opportunity, the management of waste. So if it's well done, what you can achieve through a zero waste model is basically having people managing the waste and having that benefiting both the people and the planet. It's decentralized, so it's less dependent on overwhelmed public services. As we know, Many of our countries, the public services cannot handle the amount of demands. And so if you have a decentralized system, you can make that better. And also it's awareness building, because people get to understand that not always is the same, meaning that we should not be consuming anything indiscriminately. We should actually think about the things that we consume, and there are certain kinds of packaging, certain kinds of products that we should not be consuming because we are not able to manage them. So this is, again, going back to our Zero Waste project in Dar es Salaam and just going through some of the successes that we have. For many, I think many people think when you think about segregation of waste at source, people say, oh, people won't do it. So our pilot shows that 86.25% of the people actually do it. So segregation at source can work. If the community, again, if people are given a good choice, they take it. There is a confirmation of previous analysis on the percentage of organic waste. About 60% of the waste is organic, which means that we can compost that, and it doesn't need to be transported anywhere. It can be composted in the community. Compliance with segregation at source also suggests that in low-income communities are ready to engage, even if they don't have the environmental education that we believe that they need, they don't. And then most households currently already pay something for waste management. Normally they pay informal waste collectors. What we are trying to do is just to make that payment go towards a better system. So when they pay informal waste collectors, several times the waste is thrown in a place that it shouldn't be. So if it actually pay that same money to a better system, the waste is going to be properly managed. Some of the challenges that we have, well, we need land for the material recovery facility, which is a process to get from the government. We still have unorganized waste pickers groups, so we have been working on organizing waste pickers groups here. A lot of the waste that is generated in low-income communities in Dar es Salaam is actually of very low value. That means that you cannot recycle that waste cannot be disposed. So again, we need to be creative and we need to think about everything that you can do with the waste to generate income, but you need to accept that some of the waste, again, shouldn't actually be used in the first place. Our recycling market in Tanzania is very small, so we say that about 20% of the waste is recyclable, but it's not actually recyclable in Tanzania. And then we also have many dump sites in the community that have several issues and became part of a system that is there. So this is just a couple numbers from here for you to see the division between organic recyclable residuals and hazardous waste. Here, the per capita generation is at about 0.5 kilos, which is low. Normally it's about a kilo per person. But here people had already removed waste for livestock, for example. The waste composition, as I said, about 60% of the waste is organic and about 19% is recyclable, but as I said, not actually recyclable necessarily in the country. You can see down here as well a little bit of the composition of that waste in terms of glass, paper, plastic, everything. And then when you think about the future of the zero waste community project, that's about organizing the local community members into cooperatives, making sure that they have an entrepreneurial spirit and that they can keep growing and expanding their services. We are still building the materials recovery facilities for every single one of the neighborhoods. There is obviously a need to build local government ownership, but in a way that, again, it's a community-based zero waste model, so it's not managed by the government, it's managed in partnership with the government. So it needs to be community members with local governments. And we are expanding, we are prototyping, and we are developing the financial system as well, basically for collecting fees. Because as I said, as we cannot generate enough money through recycling, it's necessary that people pay fees towards the system. So then it gets to the part that I actually wanted to talk about the most, which is what does all of these that I just talked about have to do with COVID-19. So COVID-19 actually brings a lot of opportunities. If you think about it, if you think about waste management in general, the world is about to reinvent itself. I don't think anything is going to be the same post COVID-19, which means that we can actually bring new ideas, we can bring new systems to place because people are going to be open to them and people are open to creative problem solving. In that sense, we also have the opportunity to, for example, integrate the waste management with urban agriculture. If people will have a focus on the climate crisis, which was a very high focus before COVID-19, supposing that is still going to be a very important focus, which I hope it will post COVID-19. Organic waste is responsible for a lot of emissions, and so basically the zero waste model can solve that. And I think we now have learned that some of the things that we thought that we needed to leave, we don't. The COVID-19 also showed us that. And it's an entrepreneurial model as well that can increase social benefits to vulnerable communities, and those vulnerable communities are also on the spotlight. I think there is just an eagerness in the world to build a better reality post-COVID-19. So that's our chance. Challenges, people will choose what they perceive as safe, even if mistakenly. And so, for example, there are historical wins with plastic bag bans and anti-incineration campaigns that are a threat right now because people think that plastic is safe and clean, which is technically not true. So we need to change that narrative and be able to explain that to people. And then also we need to make sure that the environment is actually connected to public health when you think about the solutions that we are proposing. And I think the most important thing is a call for the new normal. Because if you want to be a part of the post-COVID conversation, the time to engage is now. So we need to be talking about this right now. And that's it from me. Thank you very much, everyone. And I look forward to answering your questions.
Asante sana Jirani. I like what you have concluded with, that if you want to be part of the post-COVID conversations, the time to engage is now. A powerful conclusion to a very powerful presentation. Thank you so much for making that presentation from Tanzania. A reminder to everyone who's joining us, this is the Let's Do It Africa webinar on waste management during COVID-19. We encourage you to type your questions in the chat section so that our panelists can respond to them towards the end of this webinar. This webinar is brought to you by Let's Do It Africa. Our host for today is Mr. Stefan Senghor from Senegal. My name is Christine Sayo. Myself and Ingrid Nielsen from Estonia are the moderators for today. We have had 2 presentations so far. Oh, sorry, we started off with an introduction from our director for Let's Do It Africa. And then Prince from Ghana took us through the situation in Ghana. Then we've just had Anna from Tanzania take us through the situation in Tanzania. And now we are moving to our 3rd panelist for the day, Mr. Olayinka Omotosho from Nigeria. Mr. Olayinka Omotosho is a 2003 SIPSEM Fellow. He's also a Herbert Humphrey Fulbright Fellow for the year 2012 and 2013. He is currently the Assistant Director, Chemicals and Hazardous Materials Management Department at the Lagos State Environmental Protection Agency in Nigeria. Welcome, Mr. Olayinka Omotosho. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ingrid. I must first congratulate Let's Do It Africa for organizing this very important event for World Environment Day 2020. Waste management absolutely important if we're going to have, a society that is sustainable a society that is fit to be lived in by every person. Now I'm going to talk about, I'm going to introduce waste management issues Lagos, Nigeria. Talk about the experience we had through the COVID-19 pandemic, especially during period, and conclude that we learned. And basically, I'm going to talk perspective of some. Nigeria is a post-black nation, has a population of people from there are 36 states, but from the law, each state sorry for that. Hello, hello,
Hello, yes.
hello, hello.
Yes, we can
Hello,
hear you.
can you hear me?
Yes,
Can everyone
we
hear
can
me?
hear you. Yes.
Okay, I'm so sorry for that. So Lagos State has major environmental and pollution issues, such as waste aggregation, illegal dumping, with respect to waste management. And then poverty and inadequate public awareness is also an issue in terms of waste management, because we have a lot of slums with low income earning people, and in those areas waste is dumped anywhere and everywhere. Because of the huge population, it's always a problem managing waste in this sort of area. Currently, Nigeria generates about 32 million tons of waste every year. Now that's about 2.7 million tons every month, and about 90,000 tons every day. A large percentage of this is from Lagos State, and controlled by the Lagos Waste Management Authority, and they're only able to collect about 30%, of what is generated per day, treated in a sustainable manner. Now, more than 60% of the collected waste is often disposed of through semi-controlled Lagos State, and it's semi-controlled. They're not engineered. They're nowhere near perfect, but they are controlled in such a way that they are does what it can to ensure that the environmental issues are taken care of, and the waste on the street is minimized with every opportunity. Now, the experience during the lockdown of COVID-19, of course, there was a lot to go out and do the necessary work. There was a week of preparation before the lockdown, so everybody stocked up on food and essentials. All the shopping malls and markets and supermarkets were filled with people shopping in preparation for a lengthy shutdown. In fact, electricity distribution was declared to be free as the palliative to ensure that people stayed at home during that period. And waste management was considered essential service safety during the lockdown period. Now, there was a total absence of traffic on the roads during that lockdown, and this aided efficiency in waste collection and reduce the cost in terms of turnaround trips, especially for compactors and in terms of collection of solid wastes. There were no people on the streets, therefore there were no littering of public places, and so it was easy to keep the streets and the drainages and the roads and all the public places. It was easy to keep them clean during the lockdown. Now, during rainfall, we know that a lot of our drainages are blocked, when there are normal activities. Or during the lockdown, the drainages were clean because the people that usually dispose refuse in these places, even the collection was easier and more efficient due to the absence of traffic. The compactors were able to go around, and they were able to cover more areas. They were able to go to all the houses, all the public then, to the landfills. Now, due to the lack of industrial and social activities, waste management operators were able to focus on residential areas and improve no waste generation in industrial areas and in commercial areas because there were absolutely no people in those areas during the lockdown. Effective because only food and pharmaceutical are only addition. Essential food markets were opened intermittently between 8 a.m. and 3 a.m. The government officials enforcing social distancing. The waste generated was collected in the evening and the market when the markets were deserted. Of course, it was easier to collect solid waste when people were home and when the streets are almost deserted. The major advantage of the lockdown period for COVID-19, um, aside from no traffic, there was the obvious air quality. It was obvious that the air quality was of much better um, quality because traffic and waste generates mostly to waste um, to negative waste issues in Lagos State. However, during the lockdown, this was not issues. The air quality was almost normal, almost excellent, and the streets were clean. Uh, Reduction or restriction in activities, especially industrial and commercial activities, led to an increase in efficiency of waste management operations in the state. And in conclusion now, this also resulted in reduced waste management costs, especially in terms of number of trips per day. Now, trucks were able to cover more area, so were able to bring the stock. Social activities and events such as weddings, burials. Hello? Can you
Hello,
hear
we
me?
can hear you.
Hello?
Yes,
Okay,
yes,
you can hear. Okay, okay.
yes.
So social activities and events such as weddings and burials, birthdays, housewarming, of course, we know that this generates a lot of solid waste. And the continuous presence of people doing these activities hampers waste collection. However, during the lockdown, since there were no social events, it was almost excellent for waste collectors because they were just able to go around, collect the waste where the waste were aggregated and traffic them to where it was necessary. Now for recycling was a bit impeded because recycling operators couldn't, they weren't essential services according to government, and so they couldn't go around um, carrying out necessary recycling operations. We have a few materials recycling facilities and this weren't working, they weren't operational during the lockdown. So the lockdown actually impeded on recycling activities, more activities going on, with people going around picking recyclable materials and you know, doing their normal businesses. Traffic and bad roads play a major part in solid waste management. Sometimes waste compactors, they spend hours in traffic and sometimes they're leaking leachates on the roads and even overheating, and this lengthens the turnaround time and reduces the number of trips the trucks can go, thus reducing the efficiency in the whole waste management scheme. There is a need for more public education and awareness in terms of proper waste management and circular economy. Of course, government is preaching circular economy to the people. However, because of the high poverty levels, so a lot of private investment and opportunities are, they are available, but the opportunities are not being fully taken of by the people. Now, sorting from source and recycling initiatives need to be practiced more from the home to reduce waste quantity. Of course, the experience we have in Nigeria is that sorting is practiced mostly in high income areas, but these are people that use it as a source of daily income. And the government has found out that there is a lot of opportunity in this if people or facility can encourage sorting from source and aggregating specific recyclable materials so that these materials can be utilized as a means of livelihood for so many people. Short are required to shorten the distance expected to be traveled by private sector participant compactors and also increase overall efficiency of this management system. We need more transfer loading stations absolutely in a state where we have over 20 million people. I believe we have about 6 transfer loading stations scattered across Lagos State. Now, materials recycling facilities for We can facilitate such sorting and reduce general quantities of waste generation. Thank you very much for doing that. Hello? Hello?
Hello, hello. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
for your
you.
presentation,
Thank you,
Mr.
everyone.
Umotosho. My colleague Ingrid will take over from here. Kindly remember, for those who are joining us, to type your questions in the chat section. Over to you, Ingrid.
Hello, welcome everyone from my side as well. Thank you very much for Mr. Olenka for your presentation. Unfortunately, there was a technical glitch, so we didn't see it, but we will make it available somewhere for you to download and check it out. Now, moving on, let's do a little brief summary here, and if you have any questions, please leave them in the chat section. I would like to start with Prince Koleba. Thank you very much for letting us know the current situation in Ghana and how you're dealing with the plastic waste situation. And I found it very interesting, all of the ways that you have all of the methods that you're using right now to help the waste picker community and to sort of organize their work from top down. So if anyone has any questions for Mr. Prince Koleba, please leave them in the chat section and we'll be addressing them. Right now, I'd like to ask from you, you mentioned that recycled materials are more expensive for consumers. So are you working, or have you had any ideas, or within the waste management sector, what kind of solutions are possible in this situation where the recycled plastic materials market is falling or declining deeply?
Thank you so much, Ingrid. So first of all, what I just want to say is before we came into the market, the recycling rate was below 2%. And since Koleba came into the Ghanaian market, we've been able to increase the PET recycling rate to about 10%. And our target for 2025 is to increase that to about 52%. Now, our key strategy is massively collect materials on the value chain through an incentive-based model through segregation and collection, and then process them to a level that the manufacturer can use to make new bottles. We don't want to do bottle to fiber because there's a whole debate around fiber, polyester. You know, once you finish using it, it leaches, you throw them away, it leaches into the environment, the chemicals and all that are not worth it. So currently our customers are basically bottle-to-bottle companies so that they can be reused over and over again in a circular model. What we're much more concerned about is our footprint, because we're actually shipping around 150 metric tons every month out of Ghana. And all these are in excess of about 82 containers going out every month. And all these is the huge amount of footprint that comes out from our factory is so huge. So we're rethinking how do we use materials locally. I wouldn't say we have a strong strategy, but again, part of the samples we've done is to do what we call bottle to, we are doing furnitures from PET bottles. We've made some chairs from them. But again, the key questions that our board is asking is, if you're making furnitures, if you're making tiles, if you're making bricks, how do you compete in that market? Because we have a situation where there are people that there's a target to use recyclable materials, about 25% of recyclable materials in manufacturers' products, but there's a huge gap in the supply of recyclable materials. Materials are out there in the value chain, but not enough people are actually recycling them. So what we want to do is to massively collect from the value chain, create an incentive model, ensure that we don't see any plastics on the streets of Accra because they're of huge value. And we cannot just bring them in there, lying there, thousands of tons in our factory, and we begin to make products from them. Now, once we begin to make products from them, the key question we're asking is how many tiles can we make? How many bricks can we make? How do we compete with the already existing furniture market, brick market? All this is a whole business model that we need to figure out on our own, and a whole form of investment. On the other hand, there's a buyer that needs 2,000 tons a month. We are just doing about 150 tons a month. They are willing to invest more for us to recycle more and meet their demand. So I think at this moment it's more of a management decision. How best can we really, as against recovering more, getting rid of the materials for bottle-to-bottle production, or collecting less? Those that are doing plastic to tiles or plastic to bricks, they can only do a limit, say 1 ton a month, and then wait till they sell before they can recover more. We are looking at how fast and how quickly can we recover, recycle, and sell to people who need them at a faster rate. So I think this is some of the compromises that we're looking at. It's not really totally taught, but we have samples of chairs that we made, samples of tiles that we've made, but it's a whole different market altogether.
Thank you very much for that very exciting and future positive answer. Now we'll move on to questions for Anna. Thank you very much for introducing the Zero Waste program in Tanzania. I found it very, very interesting, well thought through, and eye-opening, especially since I was not really aware that you could, just with the community's help, reduce waste by 80%. So that was an eye-opening fact. Thank you very much for that. I have 2 questions for you, Anna, from the question section, from Hussein. So he has 2 questions. First, which specific areas of did you piloted zero waste in Dar es Salaam? And also, is there documentation of the zero waste success that can be replicated in some other areas in the country as well?
Yes, thank you for the question. So yes, we are still doing the pilots of the zero waste model in 3 areas, in a neighborhood called Kembe Samake in Temeke, in a neighborhood called Mbezi Luiz in Ubungo, and in a neighborhood called Bonyokwa in Ilala. So these are the 3 for the people who know Dar es Salaam. That could be useful information. We have documented everything. We really focus on data collection. So every single assessment that we do, we have been using open data kits, so ODK. Everything is digitalized. And we even do waste and branch audits as well, using the ODK and using QGIS to do randomized selection of the households that we work with. So yes, everything is very well documented, and we are hoping to be able to, well, we're supposed to be doing that right now, but with COVID-19, things are a little bit slow. We are supposed to be actually going for full collection in these 3 neighborhoods right now. We're waiting for the crisis to reduce a little bit so we can do that. And we are working on how we can scale up starting next year to other neighborhoods.
I see. Thank you very much. And in the meantime, I do have another question for Mr. Alain. That's for the next presentation. Unfortunately, I have to, yes, again, apologize that Mr. Olenka's presentation was not visible and not audible for everyone, but we will make it available later on, and we will send you a link. But there is a question from for Mr. Olenka from Nigeria, and the question is, how can we put in place necessary laws and also facilities that will encourage home consumers to be environmentally conscious? Majority of this organic waste can be used for a productive model like biogas, thereby solving electricity and creating a diverse source of energy in Nigeria. So, I'm sorry, Mr. Olenka, we have lost him. He's trying to rejoin the, yes. Hello, Mr. Olenka? Hello, Mr. Olenka, can you hear us? I'm afraid we have lost him. So I don't see
Well,
currently.
I
Yes.
I could probably talk a little bit about our experience in Tanzania with that.
Yes, please. Please.
I think what we are hoping to do, we do need to have laws and bylaws and basically a whole policy work to basically turn the zero waste model, for example, into a model that is accepted and seen as the model to go, the model to use in a city like Dar es Salaam. How do we encourage home consumers to be environmentally conscious? I think the first thing is to making them aware that they are not. I think that people not necessarily know that they are not. And so going back to one of our main assumptions that when people are good choice, they take it. If you actually show people where they are failing to be environmentally conscious and you actually offer them an option, because in a place like Dar es Salaam, for example, even when people know that they are not being environmentally conscious, they don't necessarily have an option to go with. But if you provide the information and you provide the option, then I would say that most people will do it just because they don't actually have a better, they don't have a reason not to. They don't have a better option to take. The organic waste can be used for many, many things, and it's about 65% in sub-Saharan Africa. Organic waste, if it was a country, it would be the third emissor of green gas. So it contributes really, really strongly to the climate crisis if you mismanage. So managing organic waste the right way is extremely important. And there are many things that we are also trying to produce chicken feed with the organic waste through and getting that from the households. And so there are many things that can be done. I think it's about testing them and trying to go small when you test them so you can adjust if you need, showing people those options and then also showing people what they don't know.
Thank you very much, Anna, for that. I believe we have covered the questions given. So with this, we will conclude our today's webinar. Thank you very much for everyone who joined in. This recording will be made available, so keep in tune. We will also send out an email. Thank you very much to all of the presenters. It was eye-opening, it was positive, it was very well presented subjects in your presentations. So thank you very much to my co-moderator, Christine, and thank you for the great team behind this who put this webinar together. So stay in tune, stay in touch. If you have any other questions, please, you can send them via email. You have my email because I sent out everyone's question, and I'll make sure that your questions will be sent to the proper person. So thank you very much for your time today, and hope to see you again soon.